number one, I've never heard of such a terrible thing happening to Australia's longest river. There's so many people that have depended on it for recreation, the little towns along the river that don't mean much to anybody else, except I think the point that a lot of people miss is that the river has a lot of visitors. We had the Pooncarie Hotel for 9 years, and it was the visitors that really kept us going, and it would have been the visitors that kept the shop going, which carries the fuel for the rest of the district, and for the mail trucks that run in the area, that outlying stations that get all their fuel from. So without the little shops and the hotels, the community meetings places, and that applies to right along the river, Menindee, Burke, Tilpa, right through there. It's a vast area of country, and people, more than the city people would ever understand, rely on those little shops and little places for outings and gatherings for their community. I just think the whole act is criminal, and it's going to see all those towns go under. They'll go broke. The store at Menindee, is for sale at the moment because they're not getting their visitors. All the grapes there have died, which is just so sad. They employed the people in the area. Tandown with the cotton, that's all going to be gone, and it has been probably for a little while now. But I just think it's a criminal act. If they're going to sell our water and take our water from us, what if they could take the air from us? None of us would be breathing, because the ones with the money really wouldn't care whether you and I could breathe or not. And that's basically what they're doing with the water. And I know it's an old-fashioned probably way of thinking, but the day that they started to sell water for money was the beginning of the end, in my opinion. A lot of our water now is owned by big conglomerates in Adelaide, in the capital cities, and they're buying and selling it just like you would the share market, to make money. And I just don't think that's fair. I'm so passionate about what's happened. The river is the life of the outback, and the people in the outback certainly need it. They certainly need the visitors that come to be along the river, that camp. When we were at the hotel, we had big groups of people from Victoria, the other side of Melbourne, that would come up and camp on the river for a week or two. It was a cheap holiday for them, and they supported the little establishments while they were there. So I think they're just killing the outback, absolutely. There's nothing else out there. We look like a third world country out there now, and just nothing there, and nobody cares. And, where does it end? They've got 28,000 acres of water being held up in Queensland for cotton, and I don't think we should be growing cotton in this country anyway. We're a very dry country, probably the driest in the world, and I think they need to look at that. The export, I believe, that the Chinese are taking $30-something billion worth of cotton back to China, growing at everybody's expense. Everybody's suffering for it. I think the government have got to really look at themselves, and I think people, I'm only speaking I guess for myself, but I think people are more confused now about our governments and disenchanted than ever before in my lifetime, and I'm 74 years old. And I wouldn't know. We're coming to an election, and really I would not vote for any of them. I don't trust them. But that's what I've got to say.
Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
My name's Joan Stockman, and I come from Wentworth, New South Wales. And I lived on the Darling probably for 9 years at Pooncarie, and now here at Wentworth for the last 25 years. We certainly need our rivers, both of them. And what's going to happen to the Murray? There's the next big question. I came from South Australia before here, and last week I read where Orroroo, which is only a small little town like Wentworth, is now getting Murray water. Murray water is going all over South Australia. How long can the Murray last? If they're not going to feed water into it from the Darling, I know it comes from up the top in the Snowy Mountains and all that, but my God, there's some people dipping into the Murray, and that's scary. I just think that'll be the next one. The way the water's being handled, they'll find they won't have enough water there either.
Great, okay, thank you. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add?
No, it's just that I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in our governments for doing what they've done to us. I would never in my lifetime thought that they could do that. But I also know that once they make up their minds, I think it was done long before the public got to hear about it. I think they organised it back in Bill Shorten's time when he was in government. I think it started that all running, and now, you know, it doesn't affect the city people. But having said that, I don't think that's fair to say that either, because I think if the city people really knew what was going on and how it's affecting people out here, I think they would care, but they're not told. And they make sure they're not told. The media, it's only trickling out. A few people do know now, but not enough, and they don't get the picture. I mean, they take the water away, it affects all the wildlife too, all the birds. They've killed millions and millions of fish, and they can't say it's the drought, because some of those Murray cod are 80 and 90 years old, so they haven't run out of water. If they had it, they wouldn't be alive. So that's not true. They can't convince people, and if they're selling people in the cities that that's the reason that the fish are dying, what a load of. That's just crazy talk. And I honestly believe the Menindee Lakes now would have been low for sure. The water with the drought wouldn't have been good, but they wouldn't have been dry either. I've only known them to dry up, one of the lakes to dry up once in the years I've been around here, and we've had droughts before. So I don't believe that's true.
What do you think we can do to fix the problem?
We can let some of the water go from up the top, and there can be better management of the water of the Menindee Lakes. I've seen for my own eyes that when this is 25 years ago, when they used to let the water out of the Menindee Lakes and didn't understand what they were doing, they let it out so fast that the trees would slide into the river. Not fall in, slip in, because all their root system had been washed away. And that's just poor management. Nobody running the lakes that really knew what they were doing and how they were doing it. Let it go too fast. It's been going on for a long time. This is the end of the story, what we're seeing now. But it's been bad management now in my books for about the last 30 years. Mm.
And that was 25 years ago that they were doing that?
Yep, it was when we were at the hotel. And I had them staying at the hotel. And I can remember giving them a serve at breakfast one morning after they'd had their meeting, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. And I just love the bush. I love the people in the bush, and I'm so sad that this is happening to them. It's their lifeline. That's what they've got. Where do they get their water from for their stock? How do the animals survive? You know, it's just cruel. There's plenty of stories that could be told about the bush, what happens to the animals, the wildlife, because I'm very compassionate about them too. And it's just cruel that they can't get water, you know, and the people. The poor damn people along those small towns. I mean, I'd love some of those fellas from the governments to come out and sit there and have to look at the water that they're going to wash in at Menindee or Burke or Tilpa or right at Wilcannia. You know, those people live there and they've got nothing but their river. You know, that's their recreational and that's their lifeline. And, you know, it's just wrong, very wrong.
When you said you were sitting at the hotel in Menindee Lakes and you were serving them breakfast, when you say they, who are you referring to?
They had a committee
Who is they?
The water people that came out and had meetings at the hall to decide what was going to happen to the river. And they were young fellas just out of uni.
Hold on. You can let him through, mine, if you want to quickly.
He's my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. Mine, you can let him through. Let him through. We'll just let him through. Come on.
Go for it. We've just paused for a second.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, we're in the middle of the interview. How you going?
I gave
Don't
you.
worry.
How you going?
All right, good.
I'm interviewing Joan here.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been put in the hot seat. Do you want a job?
Yeah, so you're saying that was a group, so this was, when you
Yeah,
say
that-
they, it's a bit of a vague idea. We want to know,
Sorry.
listen at home, who are we talking about here?
Well, that's a long while ago. To give them the exact title, I'm not sure, but they were the Water Commission people from Sydney. that had come over and they were discussing the life of the river right back then. And that's what I said. I think 30 years ago things started to go wrong. I think once they took it out of local hands, people that really understood the river system and how it worked, you can't do some of those things by textbook. You've got to learn firsthand, you know, how it all works. And I think a lot of that just started to go wrong back then. The same as if I went to Sydney or somewhere, I wouldn't know how to run a lot of things either. You don't expect people to, but then they should say they don't know, rather than try and tell you how to do it.
What's your personal experience with the Darling River? Did you grow up along it? Or?
No, I didn't grow up. I'm a South Australian, really. I just think, just having lived there, and before that we lived on station country. Well, I've always lived in the outback on station properties, except for the 9 years at the hotel. I just have a compassion for the country people, for the wildlife, for our way of life, and I don't see that we've got to lose everything to the modern age. You know, would you have ever thought they could? Well, they did the Anna branch to start with, put a pipeline in there and shut the Anna branch down. So that was, I don't know, 20 years ago probably. No, it wouldn't be that long. Roger and them used to live on a property, the guy that you just saw, and they got pipelines put in. But it kills the country, kills the environment. It takes away the recreational part of it that we've all known, you know, yabbies and fish and, yeah, you know, if you live in a city, you've got plenty to do. You live in the bush, you haven't. And to take a boat in and put it on the river on a weekend, or take the kids in there, or take them fishing, or have visitors for the weekend like a lot of people do, that's their lifestyle, you know, and that's what people know, and that's what we've known forever. And there's not a lot happens out back. And to take water away, to me, it's a criminal act. There's no other word for it. To take our longest river away, it's crazy stuff, just crazy.
Can we as a community, is there anything that we as a community can do to try to bring this change? Can we begin a groundswell movement, you know, as citizens in the community to try and bring that change that we want to see?
I guess there's always hope, but I lived through another little episode which is tiny compared to what this is. But we fought for our Pengkerry police station, fought long and hard, and wrote lots of letters. But I think the deal was already signed long before we got to here, and we had lots of meetings, just like we are now, and they'd made up their minds. It was never going to happen, and it didn't happen. And I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like that this time.
Do you feel like it's hopeless?
I think it's hopeless. I think they've already made up their mind. They've sold the water. So I don't know what we can do about that. I'm not into politics enough to know how the top end works in Queensland, what they've done, what deals they've put together. But I think they've sold our water, and that should be the life of the Darling right now. I mean, we talk about the Menindee Lakes, and that's storage for South Australia, along with Lake Victoria, and don't know what's going to happen there either. You know, like South Australia relied on the Menindee Lakes, and that's how silly they were. Back here, probably 12 months, 10 months ago, they let the remainder of the water out the river, and it all sat down around Murray Bridge, flooded the area. What was the point in that? Menindee Lakes are dry, and they had water that they couldn't use. So, you know, I don't understand their thinking. But I feel very sad. I don't understand what's really happened at the top. I guess we've heard snippets, but whether, I don't know enough about it. But I think we've been sold out. So what we do about that, I don't know. I think we can all have meetings and do what we like. I don't think this will change the big fellas. They made too much money, probably.
Okay. Well,
thank
sad
you.
To hear, but thank you very much.
Yeah, it is sad.
Yeah,
I feel very sad.
Yeah.
I feel very sad. I think it's a part of your life, my life, Australia's life, you know, it's just another thing that should never happen. I feel very compassionate about it, actually. You can't take the lifeblood out of the country and expect it to be what it used to be. But anyway, they've done it, haven't they? You think the people are hopeful that they'll get it back?
Me?
Yeah. You've
Well,
probably heard
I
a lot
mean,
of people say things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to know what can we do.
I'm interested in what we can do too, but I think, you know, I haven't got that knowledge. I think we've got to change government. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But change to what? I don't think Labor's going to help us. I think they started the ball rolling. And Liberals certainly finished it. So where do you go from there? So, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't be voting for the Nationals. Because old Barnaby was a National and he didn't do much to keep us going. Yep.
Thanks heaps,
That's
Joan.
no problem.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.